the News Channel 5 network, this is Morning Line with Nick Barris.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us on Morning Line. Nick Barris here on not a Monday, but a Tuesday. I hope if you had a long, extended weekend because of Memorial Day, you had a good time and, you relaxed, and we're getting back up and running. And talking about up and running, yesterday, really, on that holiday, is the beginning of Phase 2 here in Metro Nashville. Of course, many other areas around the state and in Middle Tennessee have already kind of moved to that phase, but Metro doing it its own way and taking that next step. What do you think? How are you handling things so far? I'm curious, what did you do yesterday for Memorial Day? And we'll open up the phone lines. We're also streaming live on Facebook at newschannel5.com. But I saw some clips of video. The one that jumped out at me was this giant swimming pool party at the Ozarks in Missouri at some resort there. And it was packed. Clearly, folks there deciding to do things their way. I think it maybe violated some of the regs that were in place by the state. But hey, here's the bottom line, okay? Some of you are going to say, you know what, I did exactly what I want, and I'm going to go out and do it, and okay. And then others are saying, I'm still being cautious, so I'm staying back. We'll find out soon enough if this is a problem, because if it is, there's going to be a spike, and a lot of these people at these gatherings are going to get sick. And I hope they don't. I hope they don't. But we're going to find out one way or the other, who's right and who's wrong. And that's what it's going to come down to. I don't know. Joining us to talk about this and much more is Metro's Vice Mayor Jim Shulman. I didn't see anything, and I don't know if you're familiar with the video I was talking about, anything here in Davidson County that looked like what was happening at the Ozarks in Missouri. Did you see that video? I mean, it was a pool at a resort area, and it was literally packed. I mean, you couldn't even swim in the pool. It was just so crowded. And, some folks have raised concerns about that in that state, about, being a little over the top there. But what do you think? I mean, here, people getting back to normal. I think some folks still being cautious.
Well, I think some people are still being cautious. So yesterday went out, had to pick something up at Home Depot. Went over there about 1 o'clock. This is the one over near 100 Oaks. And couldn't find a place to park.
Wow.
And looked in and saw people lined up. They looked like they were properly social distanced apart, checking out. But there were so many cars, and there were so many cars pulling in that I said, first of all, it's not worth it. And it's, probably not a good place to go at this point, and I'll just wait and go some other time. It's just not that important. I know people really want to get out. I know you could feel it. You could feel it over the weekend, particularly yesterday.
Yeah.
So maybe it's because people didn't go out of town. As they might traditionally from Memorial Day weekend, they were all here. A beautiful day outside. And you could see it with the volume of traffic. You could see it going to Home Depot. You could see it you could feel that people really have been kind of holed up and really wanted to come out. It's okay, just be careful.
Well, let's be clear then. Okay, so Phase 2, and I'm just going to look at this because I know most of it off the top of my head, but retail stores and commercial businesses may open to 3/4 capacity, correct? Employees must be screened daily and wear masks. All residents should wear masks or face coverings at all time if leaving the home, and I can tell you right now that ain't happening. That ain't happening. I mean, some people are, but most that I've seen are not. No gatherings over 25 people. Gyms and high-touch businesses like hair and nail salons may open at half capacity. All right. Restaurants and bars serving food may operate dine-in service at 3/4 capacity. Bars must remain closed. I guess that's basically it. Live entertainment is permitted. However, no more than 2 performers may be on stage at a time. Dance floors remain closed. I went out to a restaurant and ate for the first time. I've been doing carry-out, Jim, but I went out and we went earlier before I heard the restaurant gets more crowded at night, but I felt perfectly safe. There were some other customers in there, but we had space. The waiters and waitresses were wearing masks. I think if you do it, and you follow some basic guidelines and are smart about it, I think it's great that things are reopening.
No, I think people were ready, obviously.
Yeah.
And, again, just in talking to people and just, listening to people's concerns, I think people were ready to get out. Again, we're watching the numbers, making sure that everybody's okay. I think the best advice is, if your underlying health conditions, stay in. But for those who feel like, yeah, it's time to come out, but just, be cognizant. We don't want to go back to where we were. I was thinking over the weekend, it's sort of like, we don't want to let our guard down. We want to keep our mask on and keep our guard up. So come out, enjoy. It's now summer. People want to get out. I know kids want to get out. There's different opportunities. I know I've read over the weekend in the paper all these different things that, you really still can do. Maybe not as much as we could do last summer, and maybe not as much as we can do next summer. But enjoy it. Just practice caution.
That's what I think. I mean, I almost get the sense some people are a little, what's the word for it? They're fed up with it. I mean, Bobby here on Facebook saying, people need to live, get over it. And I'm not sure what she means by get over it. I agree, people need to live. I also know COVID is killing people. And so I'm just trying to bring some rationality to it. I think there's people maybe like Bobby, they're like, I'm just going to go back as business as usual, get over it, things are fine. And there are a lot of people that are buying into that. On the other hand, I don't think any of this is fake, and we just need to be kind of cautious. I mean, what do you think? My big concern is, I want to live too. And I'll try to wear a mask whenever I can. Not so much because I worry if I get COVID, it's going to kill me, though it could. I don't want to give it to someone else. So when someone says, well, you got to live, get over it, well, fine. You live your life, but I do not want to infect someone else if I'm an asymptomatic carrier. And I've been tested and it's been negative, but since then, who knows? That's the thing. Some folks are hostile about it. And I understand getting it open again and letting people get back to work, which is so important. But, this whole, get over it. I'm just going to do whatever the heck I want. I mean, first, that's just selfish.
Well, again, I think you nailed it. It's, everybody, individual liberties, freedom, all that other stuff. If it's just one of those things where it's like, I'm going to go out and do what I want to do because this is my choice, I understand that. But the problem with this thing is you can do all that you want. You may be asymptomatic, you may get the thing, you may have serious complications. We don't know. But if you're saying, that's my right, okay, I get it. It's spreading it to other people. So again, when we say be cautious, this thing is more about trying to protect other people. So what you don't want to do, again, as we've said before on this show many times, is you don't want to spread it to somebody else. So, you go out, you run around, you don't wear a mask, you don't practice social distancing, you pick this thing up, you may be fine, you may be asymptomatic, but then you give it to a loved one who is older, who may have an underlying health condition, and then they get really sick. I don't think anybody really wants to get anybody else sick. Again, individual liberties, you may want to do what you want, but just practice respect. Practice that being very careful because you don't want to give it to somebody else. And again, as we said before, we're entering this period of phase 2. I know people are happy. You can see people starting to come out. Again, you can see the increase in traffic. We don't want to go backwards. We don't want all of a sudden the hospitals to be overrun. We want to be very careful, watch those numbers like we are. The more we all work together, the more we just practice good social distancing and we're very careful. We try to be as careful as we can be. The better chance we keep moving ahead, the closer we can get back to normal a lot faster. Yeah,
I'll be curious to see what we hear from the mayor and with the health experts, because I will say this, as we've been doing this, we haven't seen the spike. And so I'm optimistic about it, despite some maybe not following the guidelines as much, others are. But, we all talk about this fear of a backslide because we don't want to go back to where we were. But wouldn't you agree at this point, not just Metro Davidson County, but the state and actually elsewhere, places like New York City and folks like that? I mean, we haven't seen a bounce back yet at this point. And I wonder if maybe to some degree some of the doctors will say this may have something to do with the warmer temperatures coming about. We were theorizing viruses die when it starts getting warm. I don't know. In the meantime, by the way, there's been some really encouraging advancements with regard to a vaccine and other treatments. So, I mean, there's a lot of reason for optimism, I think.
Well, I heard Leland Statham today on News Channel 5 this morning say that we're going to have a cold front moving in at the end of this week. And I think temperatures were going to drop down to 80.
Yeah, I mean, it was pushing 90 yesterday, right?
I know. I think he was talking about the evenings, but it was like, oh, okay, we're gonna go down to 80. So it is getting warmer. So maybe that has something to do with it. I'm sure they're testing that. I always thought that was a possibility, and then I saw what happened in Miami, and it was like, maybe that doesn't work there. I don't know. So, I think people feel better when it's warmer. They come out, they want to enjoy the sun, it feels better, all that other stuff. But again, we just have to be careful. I was going to say one other thing, Nick. One of the things that I really liked with what the mayor was doing was, if you notice between phase 1 and phase 2, if you looked at it initially when he first started all this, he had certain guidelines in that. He's modifying over time, which means that they're keeping an eye on it. So they went in phase 2, from gatherings of 50 plus down to 25, okay? They just felt more comfortable limiting the number of people in that. But they added the live music piece in. It may be a limitation, but that wasn't supposed to be, I think, until phase 3. They put some of it back into phase 2.
Yep.
They're listening. Those health department folks are listening. They're trying to make all this stuff work. We all just work together.
Yeah, I really like to see that, because we know this, again, is Music City, and the musicians are really suffering, and to get them a chance to get back performing live and finding a way to do that, I think is crucial. And as long as things continue to improve at this stage, we're on the right path. Yep. I'm optimistic. I just dread the thought of it going backwards, and hopefully it won't, because I mean, so far, it's interesting, and we need to put these in context, and we need to do this better as journalists as well as we work through it. Every day we report the numbers. The latest numbers are released by both Davidson County and the state, and we put them out there. And I tried to sift through it as well and lay out there, okay, so what does that mean, these numbers as compared to yesterday, and the trends and where we're going? And I assume the experts would say if we saw a spike, it was coming. But sometimes it's hard to get and put that into context for folks. You get the numbers, but then you wonder, what do they really mean big picture? Well,
so, a couple of weeks ago there were spikes, particularly in the state numbers, and some of that was coming from more testing. Some of it was coming, I think, from the prison populations. So you're trying to analyze it, just what you said, Nick. I mean, you're looking at the numbers, you're trying to watch it, you're looking for that constant pattern, consistent, where we're not having spikes. If there is a spike, what you're trying to do is figure out what happened. Is it maybe some test results all came back in at the same time? Or particularly for the next couple of weeks or over the summer, you're watching those numbers to see whether, okay, well, there's nothing else that may be causing those spikes except people all coming out and being around each other at the same time. You're trying to analyze it just like the health department folks are, and we just got to watch. We just got to check.
Let's take a quick phone call before we go to the first break, and I think we've got Joe. Joe, good morning, Joe. What's on your mind?
Good morning, Nick.
Hey.
Just a couple of questions. Comments, I guess.
Sure.
Okay.
I think we got two big problems. Well, the first problem is we got very poor leadership in this country. Second is the general public is not going to follow the rules. You can phase it in or talk about it all you want to, but they're going to do what they want to do when they want to do it. And as long as they do that, this is not going away. A little bit of country like Taiwan was on the news this morning, national news, and I think it's 2.3 million people or something like that. They had 7 deaths is all they've had. And the guy said that they were prepared. They had masks, they had breathing machines, and all set up whenever it hit their country. And that's the reason that, and it showed pictures of school children and everybody else. They were all wearing masks. They were doing what they were told to do. People in the United States are not that way. They're going to do what they want to do. They don't really care what you tell them to do.
It's tricky, isn't it? And part of that is what makes this country great. I've said that before. It's like, we're based on freedoms and civil liberties and a mind of our own to do our own thing and to be left alone. I understand that sentiment. I understand that. And so that makes the United States in a lot of ways unique from many of the other countries around the world, especially some, hey, if it's a dictatorship or, some despot like in North Korea or in China, they can just lock you in and say, if you come out, we're going to shoot you. I mean, Something like that. That's never going to happen in this country to that degree. And so Americans are more strong-minded and willful. And that's part of what makes the country great. It's also part of what I think makes it a little more difficult to deal with being told, hey, can you wear a mask to try to protect someone else?
No, Joe is right. Yeah, I mean, we you know, we're blessed in this country with all these freedoms. I was thinking when he was talking about that second point, remember what happened after 9/11. Remember that this country, and they thought it was for about 6 months, that everybody pulled together. All of a sudden, everybody remembered who they, you know, it's like, forget all the differences. We're America. We're Americans. It's the greatest country in the world. We're all in this together. And then if you go back and look at some of the articles, it was like 6 months later, they're all, you know, it's like it took about 6 months, and then we went back to where we were, where, you know, we're all fighting and divided. It wasn't as bad then, I think, as it is now. This thing is not obviously 9/11, but it's something that we can't see that's killing us, you know, and making us sick and making the world sick. You would think that somehow this would be a time where we remember that we're all on this planet together, and we all have to step up together and work together to defeat something that we can't see. But Joe's right. I mean, you know, people, as much as we can sit here on the show, Nick, and talk about, you know, wear a mask, be careful, be responsible. You got people out saying, I'm not going to wear one. It's like, well, why not? It's like, because I don't have to. Denmark, heard, you know, Joe was watching, Taiwan. I was listening to some story about Denmark. Denmark has like 60,000 civilian volunteers that now are going to wear vests and are going to go around and have masks and make sure that people are wearing masks and encourage people to. They can't make arrests, but they're out there just watching people to make sure that you properly social distance and wear masks. And you know what? Their numbers are down too.
Yeah.
So.
Listen, let's take a break on that note. When we come back, more calls. Ann, Charles, and others on the line. If you want to join us, give us a call. Or if you have a question on Facebook, a lot of people issuing comments, feel strongly one way or the other. That's fine as well. I'll look for those. We'll continue with Vice Mayor here in Nashville, Jim Shulman, right after this. Stay with us.